John Travolta.
I think you could be an actor. I know you're acting sometimes, but you don't show.
You thought I was faking?
Gene Hackman.
Yeah, let me help you. Go ahead. Suck harder.
Rene Russo.
Harry's dreaming of a $40 million production. He'll never get off the ground. With a star, he'll never sign with or without my help.
And Danny DeVito.
Looking at you, I'm having memories of us. And I'm wondering, how did it go wrong? How did it all slip away?
Well, it didn't slip away, Martin. You did when you went off with Nikki at my birthday party.
Yeah, that was a good party.
Rough business, this movie business.
Don't you puke on my shoes, Harry.
I may have to go back to loan sharking just to take a rest.
Get Shorty.
Fade out.
And we're back, like we never left, in the car for episode 256 of the Confessions of a Not-So-Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for taking this Saturday afternoon drive with me here in New York. Once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. Well, since we had such a successful, most underrated performance episode last night, gotten a lot of good reaction from it. I discussed Mickey Rourke in Sir Alan Parker's classic horror, mystery, thriller, supernatural Angel Heart. A lot of people have gotten back to me. They enjoyed what I got into. It's a sort of a culty film, has certain defenders, such as myself, who the masterpiece button was hit immediately. A lot of people had bombed in 1987, but people see now that there are a whole bunch of movies from Shutter Island on down that took entire plot points from, well, first William Shortsburg's original novel, Falling Angel, and then Alan Parker's brilliant film. So today we're going to talk about another underrated performance, but it's underrated only from a certain angle. It's only underrated in that its star, the star of this movie, did not get an Oscar nomination. It's literally just that simple. He received the Golden Globe Award for Best Performance by an actor in a comedy or a musical. It's a bit of a stretch to call this film a comedy. There are comedic elements. But this particular actor, who was a big star for decades, he's slowed down a lot in recent years, multiple Oscar nominee, never won an Oscar, had to settle for a Globe. But my single favorite performance by this particular East Coaster, and an iconic name in the business, and really one of the great stars in the history of cinema. The actor is John Travolta. The movie is Barry Sonnenfeld's phenomenal 1995 crime comedy, Get Shorty. Now, Get Shorty was a significant box office hit. It's the movie that Barry Sonnenfeld made before the first Men in Black. Again, for completists and people who know who he is and understand these things, Sonnenfeld is a very talented, just from a visual standpoint. He was clever with how he staged certain scenes, and what he did in Men in Black, blending the practical effects with the kind of 1997 era green screen, terrific. So Get Shorty was a big hit, and it had been an enormous literary property. Elmore Leonard wrote a number of books which were adapted into movies. Burt Reynolds did one, and then there was a very successful, I think it was a limited TV series starring Beau Bridges, that's Jeff's brother, about a kind of a ruthless but still somewhat comedic judge named, well, they called him Maximum Bob because he always gave the maximum sentence. But Get Shorty, many people consider to be Elmore Leonard's best novel, most entertaining. And it's kind of pitched at a Pulp Fiction level or angle, whereas there is a lot of graphic violence and violence that sort of comes out of nowhere, but it's funny as fuck. And most of the contemporary reviews for Get Shorty were rapturous. I mean, the Siskel and Eberts of the world loved it. David Denby in New York Magazine was a huge fan. And many of the other leading critics of the day, they love Travolta, they love Gene Hackman. And, you know, Gene Hackman played a lot of different roles, but for this movie, he plays an atypical role. It's not the kind of role you would expect Gene to play, nor is the role that Danny DeVito plays what you would expect, or Delroy Lindo for that matter. Rene Russo's performance and her role is kind of in the wheelhouse of what you might expect. It is a great film, but Travolta, there are certain actors and actresses that have such screen presence that it's almost like magic. And John Travolta, although he's made his share of duds, just like, his buddy Nicolas Cage. Cage's made a ton of terrible movies. But Travolta in the right role, specifically in that time after he made his big comeback with Pulp Fiction. John, I think, was exactly 40 when Get Shorty was shot. He was 38, 39 when Pulp Fiction was shot. But he is electric in this movie. And there's a lot of kind of Hollywood in-jokes, and there's a ton of references. And the irony of Get Shorty and the whole idea of the story is for the character Travolta plays is trying to get a certain actor named Martin Weir, and it's played by Danny DeVito, who, let's say, he's vertically challenged. So the title, they didn't even have to do it that way, and the title is even funnier than it otherwise might be. Get Shorty. That's great. The story, for those who don't know, and it is a movie that is 100% worth watching as soon as possible. I don't know anybody who does not like this movie. If you've seen it, when you think of it, you're going to smile. Because then there are cameos. Harvey Keitel has a screamingly funny cameo. Penny Marshall, the first female director to be behind the camera for a $100 million plus gross, big. There are cameos. Bette Midler. The audience was going crazy. Of course, it was a little bit different 29 years ago seeing it in theaters. The film is great from start to finish. There is a lot of graphic violence. It's not quite as edgy as a Pulp Fiction. It's just shy of that. It has the same sense, though, that you never know when the next head is going to get split open, like that kind of thing. The general idea and the kind of through line of the story is that John Travolta plays a strong arm for the Miami mob. And he is a big hitter, and he is somebody that even people above him in the mob are kind of scared of him, including the fantastic, the late great leap year baby himself, Dennis Farina, who 7 years earlier played what would be the boss of Travolta's, the outfit he's with in Miami. But in this film, he is simply high-ranking mafioso in Miami, and he is not nearly as frightening. Yeah, he's a scary guy, but he's also comedic. The character that Dennis Farina plays in Midnight Run would take this guy and stuff him into a garbage can. Jimmy Serrano, the big bad in Midnight Run, is absolutely terrifying. There's no other word to describe him. He is terrifying. The guy in this film, Ray Barboni, has elements of Jimmy Serrano, but he also is a bit of a clown. And he's dangerous, but it's a kind of running gag, and I'm going to give a little bit away, that Travolta's character of Ernesto, his real name is Ernesto, but he goes by Chili Palmer, consistently one-ups him and makes him look stupid. And it's a running theme of the film. So John Travolta, as Chili Palmer, is with the Miami mob, and the boss dies. And Travolta is suddenly Chili Palmer is in a weird position where he's not really covered by anybody. And so he follows a lead as basically working for what amounts to a loan shark. He follows a lead, and he's trying to get some money back from this guy that, it's a long story and I don't need to get into it, but a guy who owes Travolta's family some money. So he follows the guy, and he manages to get involved in a crazy plot, literally, where somebody has an idea for a movie, and Travolta, as Chili Palmer, learns of it, and then he decides to get into the movie business because, my God, maybe I want to do something else other than working for a fucking crime family or being a Shylock or whatever. So he meets a character played by Gene Hackman, who is a schlock movie producer, and maybe they can do some business. And he meets Rene Russo, who is like a scream queen, if you know what that means as far as kind of junky B movies. There are actresses from, going back in time, whether it's Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, or whether it's someone like a Linnea Quigley. Jamie Lee Curtis was a scream queen, but it's different because Jamie Lee is a great actress. She just happened to make a couple of horror films that weren't that great. But Chili Palmer decides he's had enough of loan sharking. He's had enough of breaking people's heads open, working for the mob. Let me try something else. Maybe it's a little easier. I'll go into the movie business. And he runs afoul of Delroy Lindo, who plays not the typical Delroy Lindo kind of character, because Delroy has played his share of pretty fearsome guys, such as the movie Clockers, which actually came out right around the same time as Get Shorty. Delroy is very well off. I think that he has a partner. They're in the limousine business, and they've got a lot of money, and they want to get involved with this movie also that John Travolta's character of Chili Palmer wants to get involved with. And there is a kind of, I hate to use the George Carlin phrase that there's a dick measuring contest, but it kind of is a dick measuring contest. Now, we're shown very early in the film that despite the fact that he is not an intimidating presence as far as physically, that Chili Palmer is a regular guy, but he seems to be trained in all manner of fighting skills. So, like, he appears to be MMA trained. This is not just some random 170-pound doughboy looking guy, because, Travolta, a little puffy, wasn't like the fittest, not as fit as he had been in Saturday Night Fever kind of thing. But there's a moment in the film where the late, great James Gandolfini, he kind of plays Delroy's bodyguard in this movie. Not kind of, he does. He plays Delroy's bodyguard. And Gandolfini, and this is similar to in the same year where Russell Crowe took a part in the movie The Quick and the Dead, the Sam Raimi Western with also Gene Hackman, Leonardo DiCaprio, and nominally the star is Sharon Stone. Russell Crowe takes a role that is a total throwaway. There's nothing on the page, and Russell is just so talented, he's practically jumping off the screen, announcing, I'm about to become a star, without even seeming to do anything, and his character is the most memorable in the film. In Get Shorty, James Gandolfini takes what is supposed to be a thankless role with nothing on the page, and he turns it into the most memorable character in the film just by sheer force of will and prodigious acting ability. So Gandolfini plays the bodyguard for Delroy, and there is an unbelievable scene in a restaurant where Delroy attempts to muscle up on Travolta's Chili Palmer with himself, because he is himself a bigger man than Travolta. He is significantly bigger than Travolta. He looks like he could stuff him into a garbage can, and the fact that Gandolfini is literally twice Travolta's size. And if you don't basically get out of my way, I'm making this movie. If you don't get out of my way, there's going to be a problem. And Travolta turns it around, and he does it with such confidence, such, quite frankly, movie star moxie. If people want to understand, if you're a younger person, let's say under 25, you know the name Travolta, maybe you've seen Grease, but there are certain actors and actresses where if people ask me the question, point to one scene in this person's career so I can understand how they became who they became. For Tom Cruise, it's the scene where he destroys everybody at pool in The Color of Money, not same year as Top Gun, but not Top Gun. It shows unbelievable charisma and an ability to hold a camera and just dominate without even saying anything. It's this scene for John Travolta. It's this scene in Get Shorty where he is almost literally outgunned, outmanned, and appears to be behind the eight ball, and he simply asserts himself. And when Gandolfini's character tries to make a move on him, it takes Travolta all of a half a second to completely disable him. And to make it clear to Delroy, I'm going to give you enough time. I'm going to give you a minute to get out of here. If you're not out of my face by the time I take my coat off, I'm going to clean up the floor with you. And he says it in such a flat way. He has the slightest hint of a smile, but he says it in such a way that Delroy knows, I better get the fuck out of here. This guy is going to fuck me up. He just took my bodyguard and tossed him down the stairs like nothing. And Travolta has a number of scenes in the film where he essentially has just immense command and screen presence. And there's the ever-present the slightest smile on his face. And he talks about this with Danny DeVito when they meet. Danny DeVito playing Martin Weir, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, a 2-time Oscar winner, we're led to believe. And he's trying to teach Martin Weir, he's trying to teach this look. He's trying to make him understand. You don't have to use violence. Sometimes you might, but especially someone like yourself, Martin. You don't have to use violence. You simply need to develop a look. He tries to do it with Hackman. It doesn't work. Hackman's character of Harry Zim. Again, Hackman's playing kind of a buffoonish character in this film, which is very unlike him throughout his career. Not that he couldn't do comedy. We saw him briefly in Young Frankenstein. Gene Hackman could be very funny in Superman 2. He's a scream. But this role of Harry Zim, this schlock movie producer, was a kind of cockeyed casting of Hackman, and Gene is great. He is great. But Travolta attempting to show he's essentially coaching an actor to be a better actor. And he's not even an actor. He's a fucking loan shark. He's a strong arm for the Miami mob. What the fuck is he doing in LA? So after this sequence where Delroy Lindo and James Gandolfini's character attempt to lean on him and muscle him out of the movie business, which he's not even in yet, but okay. He can't believe that he was just threatened, and he actually had to get violent and physical. And he sits down. You got Hackman and Rene Russo is there. And Travolta almost is talking to the audience. He goes, man, the movie business is rough. I got to get back to Loan Shark and to take a rest. And he's not exaggerating by that much. The nominal plot is that everybody wants to make this movie called Mr. Lovejoy. We don't know what it's about. But Delroy's character apparently has read the script. He loves it. Travolta doesn't know shitty. He hasn't read the script. And yet he's convinced that he's going to make the movie. And they're kind of poking fun at Hollywood, which is that no one reads. Now that's an exaggeration and an oversimplification. But it is not that far-fetched to imagine a big property being produced and the coordinating producer is not really that familiar with the script. He knows how to put a package together to get it done. And Travolta, in this movie, we're led to believe, this is a mild spoiler, he is involved in a production of a film and he probably hasn't read the script, which is absurd. But based on what we know of how wacky Hollywood is, it's not that far-fetched. And this is something that, unfortunately, Harvey Weinstein was, when he was working and not being what he, criminal scumbag, Harvey Weinstein was known as a producer who read everything. And he wanted people to come to him with questions, not the creative executives, because he knew he'd read the fucking script. He could at least answer questions. In a world of this film, I think that Delroy Lindo is the only character that has even read the script. But let's go ahead and make a movie. I don't really need you. Why the fuck do I need you? So there's a lot of kind of plotting and stratagems and ideas of, well, we'll do this and he'll do that. But ultimately, it's John Travolta running the show from start to finish. And in every scene, he doesn't take any scenes off. His performance is marvelous from start to finish. Where we know this guy, he doesn't want to be a mobster. He wants to do something else with his life. He wants to get into the movie business. And, maybe this, what would seem to be a bad break of the mob boss guy Momo in Miami dying, and now he's got Ray Barboni, the Dennis Farina character. But maybe this will all work out. Maybe it'll all work out to his benefit. And the supporting performances in the film are also great. From, as I said, Rene Russo, and what's his name? I think Pablo Sandoval. He's terrific. And as I said, Harvey Keitel in a tiny role is an absolute scream. But I want to spotlight, again, James Gandolfini. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of The Sopranos. I watched probably about a quarter of the episodes total. I don't know, the show just didn't work for me. Now, I remember when it came out, and it was kind of a big thing at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym because Jamie Lynn Sigler, who played Meadow, the daughter, on the show, she worked out at Bev's. She was from the area. It's one of those things. She already had worked out there. She was a regular. She was a member. And then the show started, and I was training with this guy, and he points to this young lady who was she was doing abs or something. She was by herself. And he said, you know who that is? I said, I mean, I've seen her here. I don't even know her name. Who is that? She said, well, her name is Jamie. You know that new show, The Sopranos? She plays the daughter. Really? So, yeah, I never met her at Bev's. I wasn't going to like fanboy out or anything. But I remember when The Sopranos hit, and people could not stop talking about how much they loved the show. It's like Goodfellas, only it's a weekly series. We get to tune in every week. People were so excited and so geeked up. And there were those that did not and were not familiar with James Gandolfini, who had made memorable supporting performances in a number of earlier films in the 90s, such as, and it's not a very good movie, Angie with Gina Davis. That was a film there were high hopes for, that maybe Gina could get another Oscar nomination. It's not good. Stephen Ray is funny. He has his moments. It's not good. But Gandolfini registers. He's great in that film, even though the movie sucks. He's excellent in True Romance. Another movie I don't love, even though Tony Scott, the wizard behind the camera, and it was from a screenplay by Quentin Tarantino. Sorry, just got a little glare. But it's from a screenplay by Quentin Tarantino. Tarantino's original script is better than what ended up on screen. But Gandolfini, in that movie, he and Patricia Arquette, see, I almost said Rosanna. Patricia Arquette, who is the girlfriend of Clarence, that's the Christian Slater, the main character. James Gandolfini's character and Patricia Arquette's character, I think her name is Alabama, they have a fight, a knockdown, drag-out fight. And I have a friend who was a full-contact fighter. He was a kickboxer. He was a regular boxer. And he said, just from his perspective, that might be the most realistic fight he's ever seen in a film, where it wasn't, Rocky boxing match. It was just a fight between two people trying to beat the shit out of each other. He said it was choreographed so well, even he couldn't believe how it worked and how good it was. And so Gandolfini was terrific in True Romance and the movie with Gina Davis, Angie, and Get Shorty. He's so good in Get Shorty that I want to reboot The Matrix and have him get a Best Supporting Actor nomination. That is how good James Gandolfini is in Get Shorty, because yes, he's Delroy Lindo's bodyguard, but there is so much more to that character than just the fact that he's Delroy's bodyguard. It's a brilliant performance. He does more with less. He does about as much with a little as you possibly can. No pun intended. I really like Renee Russo in the film also. She plays, as I say, this B-movie actress, but she also kind of gets involved romantically and presumably professionally with Travolta. But it's John's movie. And I remember I was actually watching the Golden Globes the year of, so again, it's for films released in 1995. And two major hitters won the Best Actor, Best Actress in a comedy or musical. And that's where the Globes can kind of take advantage, because they can mix up the genres to do whatever they want. Because remember, it's a Hollywood Foreign Press. It's not really an American, it's aired over here. It's set in Los Angeles. When I say set, that they hold it, they have the show in LA, I think in LA. But it is Hollywood Foreign Press. This is not something that emanates here or originates here. But you had two major stars win the top award. John Travolta, Best Actor Comedy Musical, Get Shorty, and Best Actress was Nicole Kidman for the kind of black comedy from, I think it was Gus Van Sant, actually, who then went on to do Good Will Hunting, To Die For, where it's a little bit of a spin on the Mary Kay Letourneau absurdity from the earlier in the 90s, where you have a hot teacher or whatever hooking up with a student, and not good. But what I remember about that award show is there was a sense, because Travolta had been nominated for Best Actor for Pulp Fiction. Now, I am as big a Pulp Fiction fan as any of you out there. I loved Pulp Fiction from the first time I saw it. I saw it at the old Comac Multiplex, a movie theater that has long since gone the way of the dodo. I absolutely loved it. If you ask me, did I think Travolta's performance was epic or no? I think Samuel L. Jackson was more impressive than John, no offense. I got his character to a greater extent. I love Bruce in that movie. Man, Bruce was great. Harvey Keitel, Winston Wolfe. You got a head, you got a body minus a head, the car in the garage. Take me to it. Unbelievable. But Travolta was nominated for Pulp Fiction, and there were some people that actually thought he was going to pull the upset and defeat Tom Hanks, who was up, of course, and ended up winning for Forrest Gump. Yeah, that was not going to happen. But Pulp Fiction is also kind of a supporting performance. I mean, he and Uma have stretches of the movie where they're the stars, but it's an ensemble film. It's not a best actor kind of movie, I don't think, and I didn't think. Get Shorty shows a great movie star and a terrific film actor in Travolta at his peak, in a juicy role and nailing it from first frame to last. So when they announced the Oscar nominations and Travolta's name wasn't on the list, I remember being really upset. I mean, I could be a crybaby and whine, but I thought that he was going to end up winning the award, and he didn't even get nominated. And that thing that really pisses me off is that 1995 is not, it's the only year of the 90s that I think is just okay as far as movies. There are some great films in 1995. I love Apollo 13. I love Braveheart. Oliver Stone's Nixon was okay, but Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage, very depressing. Heat, Michael Mann, with Bobby D and Al Pacino, one of the best films of the year. So there are really good movies. And Get Shorty, I thought, was one of the best films of that year. But in a year that the Best Actor award, it ended up going to Nicolas Cage for Leaving Las Vegas. I love Nicolas Cage. But I'm sorry, John Travolta in Get Shorty gives a better performance. The problem I have with Leaving Las Vegas, from a kind of conceptual standpoint, is you have a character at the very beginning of the movie, spoiler alert, he says, I've given up on life and I'm going to spiral downward. I want to drink myself to death and don't get in my way. Okay, great. There is no real growth, development, nothing. Although Cage argued that in fact there was, I don't know about that. I love you. I love Nicolas Cage. I'm so happy he's made this comeback, but I would have, based on who was nominated, I thought Richard Dreyfuss and Mr. Holland's Opus should have won the award. I thought he was fantastic in that film. That was another good movie from 1995. Man, Mr. Holland's Opus, a real slept on. I probably have to do an episode on that one. But Dreyfuss is brilliant in that film. Travolta should have been nominated, and he should have won. I mean, they didn't nominate Mel Gibson for Braveheart. I guess you could have given it to him. I don't know. He won picture and director, but he didn't get nominated for Best Actor. He's got guys in every fucking scene. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff at those Oscars. But John not getting the courtesy of a nomination after winning, it's seemingly going away, because when he won for Get Shorty, the place went berserk. I think that he almost won unanimously. That's how high on his performance everyone was. Batman Forever, another movie from that year. That was an enormous hit. The first Toy Story was 1995. So, like I said, there's quality. There were some great films that year. And, some under-the-radar classics like Wayne Wong's Smoke, which I absolutely love, also with Harvey Keitel, William Hurt. But it is unfortunate that what I believe to be the single best performance by one of the great stars, terrific actor, and you hate to say a bit of a tragic figure, but with all of the terrible things that have happened to him, with losing his son and his life mate, his partner, Kelly Preston, dying of cancer a number of years ago, he wouldn't want us to feel sorry for him. He's got a shit ton of money. He got a Learjet, but man, what a tough road he's walked and he's traveled on. And nothing but respect from me. And as I said, I know he made some terrible movies. Domestic Disturbance with Vince Vaughn was awful. And he did the John Gotti film a couple of years ago, People at Bev's, because Gotti III worked out there. There's a lot of excitement. That was not good. But when he's right in movies like Face Off, or whether you want to talk Saturday Night Fever or Blowout, or even goofy shit like Look Who's Talking, Travolta's such a talent. What an incredible actor and a great movie star, and just oozing charisma from the first, from Welcome Back Kotter in those days, Carrie, directed by his buddy, and then later collaborated with Blowout, Brian De Palma. But Get Shorty is his best work, in my opinion. And it is a crime, a cinematic crime, that he did not get an Oscar nomination, because I think he should have won a goddamn award. Simple as that. John Travolta as Chili Palmer in Barry Sonnenfeld's 1995 classic crime comedy, Get Shorty, the 18th entry in our continuing series of most underrated film performances. This has been episode 256 of the Confessions of a Not-So-Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your Saturday afternoon with me here in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or the other platforms, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode real soon. Till then, peace.